screen, my friend.
Yes, thanks. All right. Before I get started, I just want to clarify that everything that we covered in the BricsCAD Lite presentation or BricsCAD Lite demo obviously also applies here. So if you have a prospect that you want to sell BricsCAD Pro to, but they're interested in 2D, please also highlight all the things I highlighted earlier. Highlight the compatibility, file format, the Lisp support, our innovations in 2D and in 3D, these kinds of things. There are 4 major differences between the Lite and the Pro license, or at least 4 extensions in the Pro license that Lite does not have. The first one, and a very important one, is access to third-party applications. Second one is direct modeling, 3D direct modeling, and 3D constraints. Third one is civil design capabilities, and finally, there's a point cloud capabilities. Let's start with the third-party applications. So it's always a good idea to just go to the App Store and show them that there's over 400 applications, most of which run on BricsCAD Pro. There's a couple of exceptions, like for instance, the Rhino Grasshopper connection for BricsCAD BIM, or AX3000, where you need a BIM license to be able to run this properly. But most other applications will run on BricsCAD Pro. And also mention, of course, if you have a prospect or a client that writes their own applications or their own code on ARX, it is very easy to port it to BRX, usually with very minimal human intervention. So it should be very, very easy to port it and to just run it straight into BricsCAD. Now, if you want to show some 3D modeling, there's plenty of things you can show. First of all, of course, make sure that you have some practice with the way 3D modeling works, with the way the quad works and the manipulator, because it can be difficult to demo something live in 3D and also explain everything properly at the same time. And also make sure that the model you choose for your 3D modeling or your demo, this also applies to 2D, of course, by the way, the model you choose resonates in some way with the prospect. If you have a prospect in the AEC space and you show them a manufacturing part, it might not be very relevant to them. Sometimes if I just want to show very simple modeling capabilities, I might start off with a very generic design. In this case, it's a bit of a design for a bench. And using the quad, using face manipulation, direct modeling, I'm able to create this model fairly easily. So do also focus on the fact that it's direct modeling, that we have a very intuitive way of modeling, much like SketchUp, for instance, but with that difference that the models that we create are actual solids, which are ready to be used further in the process. So 3D solids can then be used, for example, for architectural models that can be used for BIM processes, or mechanical models that can be used for mechanical assemblies, constraint assembly, and all these kinds of things. This is an example of a building that was made using BricsCAD Pro. So these are not BIM objects, these are just solids using the BricsCAD Pro license. And the example that I'm showing here is basically I'm rotating the roof using the manipulator. But still, even though these are not intelligent BIM objects, there is some intelligence in the way that our modeling engine works, because in this case, it will recognize that these roof beams and the walls need to remain connected with the roof when I'm making this change. So if I hide the roof here, you will see that everything came with it properly. On the other hand, if you have a prospect who is more interested in a mechanical or manufacturing market, it might be interesting to show them some simple examples of parts and assemblies for example, this little part here that we can use to show variable fillets on. So 3D modeling, as I said, direct modeling. However, we do also support constraints. We have a constraint solver, and does a very good job at solving all kinds of parametric expressions and constraints. So in this case, there's this model here that was also created with BricsCAD Pro. It was made using direct modeling tools, and afterwards we applied some constraints to it. Basically, these constraints, I'll show them in the parameters panel. These constraints govern certain geometric properties. For instance, this L1 parameter here that governs the distance between these two faces, i.e. the length of this leg here. And changing one of these parameters will change the entire object, of course, or the entire assembly. To see what something does, you can also animate it, of course. This is just as an example of how constraints could work. It's, of course, a very general thing, constraints and parameters, so you can do anything you want with it, of course, but I like this example personally because it shows what it does very good. In this case, I'm going to set my parameters to be geometry driven, and now the opposite will happen. What I mean by that is, instead of changing a parameter and the model changes, I'm going to change the model and the parameter values will change. So I can, let's say, move this platform up a bit or rotate it, and my parameter values will change here. And of course, this 3D modeling, so direct modeling and these 3D constraints and parameters are then also the basis for BricsCAD BIM and BricsCAD Mechanical. BricsCAD BIM and BricsCAD Mechanical take these concepts of direct modeling and constraint solving further into a more vertical field, of course. Now, the third difference between Light and Pro, as I mentioned, is the civil design capabilities. So we have also expanded in that area. For this, I'm just going to show a very short screen recording. Actually, the screen recording is fairly long. It's about 15 minutes, but I'm not going to show it all here. Just want to show you that it's also possible, if you're not comfortable with the commands or you don't master the interface yet of a certain tool set, it's also possible, it's okay to just show a video and explain a bit over it. So that's what you could be doing here. You can show a screen recording of this, of my colleague Xian, who is doing some civil design works. She's creating a grading, smoothing the thin surface, creating alignment, applying corridors or sections to this alignment to create corridors, so that in the end we have some bridge and roadwork design. And finally, there's also the point cloud support. For this, I'm going to open the final drawing here. If you have your own point clouds, or if your client or prospect has point clouds, feel free to import them into BricsCAD yourself and try to show something on there. If not, we can provide you with some point cloud files that can be used for demo purposes. For instance, this one here. But important to mention is that between the Pro license and the BIM license, the point cloud features are divided between the two. So the BricsCAD Pro license will take you up to a certain point regarding point clouds. But as soon as you want to do something that's more along the lines of scan to BIM, you will need a BricsCAD BIM license. So for example, automatically detecting floors in a point cloud, detecting planar geometry, detecting walls and slabs. These kinds of operations you will need a BIM license for. However, with a Pro license, you can import, you can crop a point cloud, change visualization section for your point cloud. Use the bubble viewer so you get a correct view of what a certain room looks like from the position of the scanner. These kinds of things. So if you need a point cloud for demo or for example purposes, you can contact us and we can provide you with them. All right, with that, I'm going to hand it back to Don, and then in a couple of minutes, we'll talk a bit about WorksCAD BIM and mechanical.
Excellent.